it takes guts to get a job in sport because everybody wants a job in sport. Like it's an amazing field to work in. If you have an idea of what your career, like of what you want your career to look like just don't be too set on it because it's likely that it will be like a whole bunch of different things. You're going to get a lot of no's and you're going to get a lot of no answers as well.
G'day guys, coming up on the show today is Jessica Robinson, Digital Production Specialist at Code Sports. Jess's role involves creating content across many formats. This involves being what we call a digital all-rounder, someone who can write, present, cut video, format a website and publish to all channels. From managing social media strategies to enhancing audience engagement, Jess is driving Code Sports' growth in the competitive sports media industry. Previously, Jess honed her skills in roles with Basketball Australia, the Australian Grand Prix Corporation and the Australian Open, bringing expertise in journalism, public relations and digital production. If you're looking for insights into breaking into the sports industry, networking effectively and mastering the digital skills demanded in today's market, Jess's journey offers a comprehensive roadmap. Let's go.
I started volunteering.
It's all about who you know in sport.
Am I going to be calling the last 10 seconds of the grand final?
You can connect with the interviewer. The hand goes up when they've got to make a decision.
Having a network is one of the most important things you can do.
I didn't necessarily follow my passion, I followed my curiosity.
Once you've worked in sport, there's no going back.
And then lo and behold, before I left, I got offered too.
Hello and welcome to the SportsGrad podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry, brought to you by our good friends at Deakin University, home to the #1 sports science school in the world. My name is Ruben Williams and I'm an ex-Cricket Australia employee who started SportsGrad to help others get their dream job in sport, and now it's become my own dream job. If we are not already, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn or Instagram. You can find me there if you just search Ruben Williams. And if this is your first time ever listening to this show, well, every single week in the SportsGrad podcast, we find out what people do in the sports industry and how they got to where they are so that you can learn more about what goes on in the world of sport. And if you want to find your dream job, have a comprehensive overview of the different jobs available. So if you are still searching for career direction, one thing I'd recommend doing is actually just putting this on 1.5 speed and binging about 10 to 20 episodes at once, because after you do that, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what jobs are out there. So dive into the rest of this podcast because that'll help you make progress very, very quickly. Now, bit of an update from HQ. Last week, the SportsGrad meetups wrapped up in Melbourne. Unfortunately, before recording this, the Melbourne one hasn't happened yet. That'll happen tomorrow night. So I can give you a bit of a recap from the Sydney and Brisbane events. And they were terrific. I was on the road for the entire week, flew out Monday, got back Friday. Tuesday night in Sydney was terrific. We had Dan Solway from Cricket New South Wales and Simon Wilson from the AFL, who's worked in growing the game in New South Wales for about 20 years. He's been in the participation space for a long, long time. So that was absolutely awesome to catch up and reconnect with the Sydney people. Then it was off to Brisbane, where we heard from Molly Donohoe, who is still coming down from the premiership of the AFL men's team with the Brisbane Lions, and Louise Jeffs, who is absolutely crushing it at the Brisbane Broncos as a memberships and ticketing manager, where they have become the first NRL team to ever pass 50,000 members. So that was really cool to catch up with her. And actually, so the meetup happened on Thursday night. Friday, I had to fly back to Melbourne, flew straight to Avalon Airport, landed at 3:45, and that is because I had to get to the wedding of a high school friend. His name's Gibbo. Gibbo was marrying the beautiful Chelsea out at Werribee Mansion, and they asked everyone to arrive at 4 o'clock. I touched down at Avalon Airport, 25 minutes down the road at 3:45. So I race in my car up the highway, park at Werribee Park, get my suit in the back. And this is when I was like extremely appreciated to be a guy, because it took me about all of 5 minutes to get changed and brush my hair and then quickly walk across to the wedding. And I kind of came around the corner along the side of the mansion and could see that the wedding had begun. It was in the garden, and I could see all my friends standing there lining up watching the wedding. I could see Cam and Chelsea, and I was basically walking up in line with the aisle and altar of the wedding. So I was basically in everyone's eye view, and I thought, no, I'm not spoiling this wedding. I have to like discreetly arrive. So I did a hard right, walked across the gardens, across this lawn, through some bushes, around the back, and very stealthily made my way to the back of the crowd of the wedding when I arrived and got to catch the end of their love story, heard all the vows, saw them walk up the aisle, congratulated them immediately, and then went about and enjoyed the reception afterwards. So it was from one thing to the next last week. Sydney meetup into Brisbane meetup, straight into a wedding, and then back down to Lawn to rest and recover. Which, speaking of Lawn, this for those who've been following me online, you would have seen that I have moved down to Lawn to focus on rebuilding SportsGrad. And I arrived on the 1st of September and have been down here for basically, 3.5, 4 months now. And sadly, I don't know. I basically have to give the house back over summer because the owners of the house want to come down and spend Christmas and New Year's here. So I've got to get out for about a month, which means like the little incubation period has kind of come to an end. So I'm going to be back up and around Melbourne, seeing some friends and family, catching up with people again, which I'm actually really looking forward to. It was getting a bit lonely towards the end of it, to be honest, albeit things are moving very, very quickly. So I'm going to have about a month in Melbourne, just kind of socialising, seeing people, catching up, seeing what's going on. And then the owners have said, Ruben, you can come back halfway through January next year. So we'll reset, rest, and then come back and do it all again because whilst the majority of SportsGrad is rebuilt and up and going again, it's time to scale it and really get it out there. So again, just going back to what I know works, and that is a period of intense focus on the coast. So that is my movements for the next little while. Now, a bit of an update from the community. Time to shout out some people who've had some wins in the community. And this one I'm extremely happy to share with you because it comes from my good friend Narasim Ravi, who has just got a job as the community programs manager at my beloved Hawthorn Football Club. Now, Ravi and I worked together back in 2020. He was a coaching client of mine, and he went on to work for the Bulldogs and Hockey Victoria and do a bunch of different roles. And he called me up a couple of weeks ago and said, Ruben, just wanted to let you know you were the first few people that I've told, but I've just landed a new job as community programs manager of the Hawthorn Football Club and just wanted to give you a call. And honestly, like this is exactly why I do what I do. It is so awesome and such a great privilege to be one of the first people who are on the receiving end of finding out news that is literally life-changing for people. When you get a new job, it changes your life and sets you on a new trajectory, introduces you to new friends, teaches new things. And so to play a small role in people's lives and getting jobs and having them call me up and say, hey, Ruben, got an update for you. Even better when it happens at the Hawthorn Football Club is, really, really fills me up and makes me feel good. So, if you get a new job, please call me because that'll make my day. Next shout out goes to Danny, and I'm going to say this wrong. I'm so sorry. Pazkuski, who has just got a brand new job up in Sydney as a community programs manager with the AFL adding Greater Sydney. So a couple of community programs manager roles going around. Danny's done some excellent work with Sydney Uni in the past, has been at our meetups as well. So really happy for you, Danny. That'll be an excellent role joining the team up there with Adam Clough, who recently helped us out to run a joint meetup for the AFLW and put on a bit of a watch party. Now, this last one's a bit of a retro congratulations because it is impossible for us to know of absolutely every single job that gets handed down to community members. So this is a bit of a latergram, but a big congratulations to Liam Daniels, who earlier this year got a brand new job with the Richmond Football Club as a membership, sales and service officer. That was something I only found out just this week, so I wanted to give you a shout out, Liam, and say well done. But as always, if you want to keep growing your career and keep getting involved with SportsGrad, make sure you check out the events calendar. Make sure you check out the job winner. We are sending out updates a couple times a week about new jobs and new events being added to that. The team behind the scenes are doing an excellent job of keeping that updated and attending to all the concierge requests that are coming through as well. So if you do have a concierge request whereby you want us to bring a particular person to one of our events, or if you want a particular job, you can just let us know and we'll go do the heavy lifting for you. All of that is inside the membership platform. You can find it there. But in terms of events coming up tonight, we've got Mal, General Manager of Football from the Western United Football Club. He's going to be on tonight. Good to have someone at that head of level jump on. So some senior experience in football happening tonight. We got Speed Networking, final one for the year, coming up on Wednesday. And then we kick off again on the 8th of January. We've got a bit of a break over Christmas and New Year. So rest up, reset, set some goals for the new year, and then come back firing in the new year. We'll have plenty of connections for you guys to meet and grow your career. Until then, if you want to stay up to date with absolutely everything going on in SportsGrad land, make sure that you subscribe to the SportsGrad newsletter. Head to the website to get hold of that. Every Monday I send out a newsletter which is called Shortcuts by SportsGrad. It's designed to shortcut just about every step of the process of landing a job in sport. And, sport is incredibly competitive. So if you want to keep an edge, don't tell anyone that you've got this. Just keep this little newsletter of gold to yourself, and it should help. Anyway, let's dive into today's episode. Here is Jess Robertson from Code Sports. Have you got your eye on a future in sport? If you're ready to transform the industry, then perhaps get ready to study with Deakin and prepare yourself to redefine what it means to work in sport. That's what I did at least. Deakin's School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences is ranked #1 in the world. Pretty cool, hey? So if you want to turn your passion for sport into an impactful career, get ready to push the limits of exercise science, sport coaching, sport development, sport management, nutrition sciences, physical education, and more. You can do it all at Deakin. Apply now and study at Deakin University. Jess, welcome to SportsGrad.
Thank you, Reuben. Great to be here. Hello, everybody. Great to see all your faces.
Now, this isn't actually your first involvement with SportsGrad because only a very few people would know that you were the special guest at one of the great events that we did at the Formula One Grand Prix, where Ryan and I were on stage and got to interview someone at the Grand Prix, and that was you in your role at the Grand Prix way back when.
Gosh, that feels like a hot minute ago now. That was a lot of fun, and that was the first time that I had been the person being interviewed. So I feel like I was, just getting into that kind of role. But that was fun. That was good.
Well, that was just a test run so that we could do this recording for the podcast and the community now. But another quick fun fact about you, you've just released a single. Like, you are a singer on Spotify and you had a launch event on Friday. How did that go?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this about me, but, especially working in the sports space, people only see one side of me, but there's a whole other life that I lead. I'm a musician, I write songs, I play music. It's been kind of a lifelong thing that I've done. And then, we had a song come out. It's my first release in a couple of years. So I had an EP before COVID and then a couple of singles since. But this is the first one this year. And we celebrated on Friday night, played a show, had a lot of people come and sing some songs, and it was great. So that's a whole other life that I lead, but it's one that I love. So thanks for mentioning it.
My pleasure. Well, for the people who stumble across this on Spotify who have searched Jessica Robertson looking for your interview, I would encourage them to go and find Jessica Robertson, the single. And if you've made your way here looking for Jessica Robertson, the musician, welcome. I hope you enjoy this chat. But we like to start all of these sessions with a few quickfire questions to help people learn a bit more about you. I've already learned a couple of fun things, but I'd love to learn what inspired you to first work in sport.
Yeah, well, so growing up, I was, always a stage girl, like dancing, singing, the whole thing. I'm, not that good physically at sport, but I loved watching it with my family. My dad and my brother especially so involved in cricket and AFL and baseball, and so we were very much into the sports scene, a very sporty family, and I just found myself like fully engaged in all the conversations, the storylines. I love storytelling, so whether it's in my journalism or in my songs, and then I just figured out throughout uni, I was doing a journalism degree. And, what I liked talking about was sport, and, I enjoyed it. And so I thought, why not make that my career path? Haven't looked back. loving it.
Amazing. And what was your first ever sports related job?
Yeah, so, tough gig getting into sports journalism. It's always the toughest part is getting your first foot in the door. But I was lucky enough, I think I worked a Fast Five netball series. I'm pretty sure that was the first thing that I did, and I was a media writer. I think it was in 2018, and it was just like a weekend of the Fast Five tournament, and you're just thrown in there and you're just going to write all the match reports after every single match. But it was a great way to learn because it was so quick, and yeah, as I said, thrown into the deep end and you just go for it.
And what did you study coming out of high school?
So I did a Bachelor of Comms, majoring in journalism at Deakin, and I really tried to specialize in the sports field once I figured out that that's what I wanted to do. Deakin didn't have a sports journalism major, but I think they do now, which is great. But yeah, I really tried to kind of really lean into that direction throughout uni, and then, find opportunities through there.
And in the role that you are in now, can you recall an interview question that you got asked in the selection process?
Yeah, I think one of them was definitely, what's your kind of like niche storytelling aspect, kind of coming into the role, if that makes sense. I guess like your favorite thing about storytelling, or your favorite stories that you'd like to tell. And for me, I'm pretty sure I went in with I just love a story of the underdog. I love it when it's someone coming back from, a long-term injury, or someone who's done something a bit of left of field to get through a significant patch in their life, and now they're succeeding. Like, I just love those stories. So that was one question that I remember being asked.
And any book or podcast recommendations that have helped you in your career?
SportsGrad, is that the right answer?
That's the only right answer. I'll pay you later.
Yeah, do you know what? When I was kickstarting my career, like podcasts, absolutely. I love listening to just like the sports experts in the fields, and I would learn a lot from them. But I actually will say, like, SportsGrad, I did listen to a lot of the episodes as I was gathering through my career. But also, I think for me, it was just like a lot of talking to people that were where I wanted to be, and coffee catch-ups. That's probably where I learnt the most, I'd say.
Wonderful. And you're very kind. Thank you for that. And if you could change roles with anybody in sport for one day, whose role would you like to try, and why?
Yeah, I think it's a really hard one because I love my job, what I do right now. But I feel like I think I would like the side of like sports management and talent management. I did work in PR for a short time, which was a different experience, but there was a lot of like interaction with the talent managers and opportunities there. So I feel like that was something cool that maybe I'll do it down the track.
Love it. Now, I can vividly remember a couple of years ago, a year, whenever it was, I was in Sydney having coffee with Alex Brown, one of the senior managers at Code Sports, and he said to me, "Ruben, we love what you're doing at SportsGrad. Like, do you know any up-and-coming journalists like in your network or in your mix?" And I was like, "Well, I know Jess, who's done some great work across basketball and Formula One and a bunch of other spaces as well, and put your name forward to Alex." And then here you are years later, or months. I'm not sure how long you've been in now, but can you tell us a bit about what the start to your career at Code Sports has been like?
Yeah. Well, yes, amazing. Can you believe that was only at the start of this year? That is wild. But yeah, it's been a great experience. It's more on the production side, and I've really kind of jumped into the journalism space as well. But it's been a great experience getting back into the sports newsroom, which is what I'm most passionate about and what I really wanted to do since the start of my career. And this is just such like a great opportunity. They've got a lot of kind of growing space that they want to develop as a platform. Like the platform Code Sports was only really created a few years ago, throughout the pandemic, and people want more and more sports content every day. So there was a space for that. So it's been really great to get involved and to be telling stories again and learning different skills as well, because I'm coming into like the digital production space as well. But yeah, they're more than happy for me to jump on any creative opportunity and tell a story. So I'm very lucky in that space.
So when you say digital production, can you break that down for us? What does that involve?
Yeah, so I mean, now we know that journalism is, leading into the digital space and has been for a bunch of years. So we've got to make sure like the web and the socials and the video and, everywhere that you can reach a story is looking pretty good. So a lot of what we do in the digital production space is pretty much build the stories. So it's kind of, I sit in both spaces. So I'll be a journalist some days, and then in production some days. And most of the time the journos just send producers their stories. So like send all the copy through and we'll build it up, make it look pretty, publish it, make sure it gets to the right audiences as well. So that's kind of the role in a nutshell. But yeah, it's good to be developed in both skill sets as well.
Totally. Yeah. Because I can see like, are you literally reading people's stories, finding like what the best snippets or quotes are and thinking, you know what, that'll go really well on social media, and then going ahead and publishing that? Is that kind of what it looks like?
Absolutely. So, if there's some incredible quotes, which there always are, we'll generate it into, some social posts linking back to the story. If there's room for a video, a lot of the time now, like video is becoming a focus. So if we can get out there, capture more content, see what's engaging with audiences as well, that links back to the stories, because at the end of the day, you want people to subscribe to the platform. So yeah, kind of also like picking out what the headline is of the story. Does that headline work? Is that not working? How can we make it better? Little tweaks here and there. So that's a big part of the role.
And like working on both sides of the coin, does that help you when you are when you've got your journalist hat on? Because are you writing thinking, I can write this line knowing that it'll fit really well in a social media graphic? Is that kind of where your mind goes to?
Absolutely. And I think that's becoming more of a focus now for all the journos, even if they've been in print for 20, 30 years, they're putting their digital caps on now as well, and going, yeah, here's the video element for this story, or like, yep, this quote will work on socials and get people's attention and get them clicking through to the story. So yeah, it definitely works both ways, and it's definitely good to have the knowledge of what works as well.
I remember speaking to Fox Sports journo Ben Waterworth a long time ago now, but he said it was probably 2016 or 2017 that he said this, but he said that learning how to sell his stories was almost just as important as writing his stories. And I think back then he probably just had to pitch it to an editor who would just select what goes on the website, as opposed to like literally, how can I sell my story through video or through a graphic tile or something else? But it sounds like that new age of knowing how to sell your stories is becoming increasingly important in your role.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably perfectly said, like how you can sell your story via social media platforms, because, gone are the days of, oh, I read it in a newspaper. Yeah, it's a lot more accessible via socials now. But there's a lot of content out there as well. So how does yours stand out?
Yep. What do journalists get judged on? Like if you were to look at, say, a commercial role, like the obvious KPI is sales. How much money did you bring in? What is like the equivalent for journalists?
Yeah, it's a good question. In the digital space, I guess it comes down to, most importantly, subscriptions. Is your story generating subscriptions? And then, page views and engagement, like how long does someone spend reading your article on that web page? Do they click through to the next article? Are they clicking through to watch the video? Those are all things that come into consideration. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you're working for a subscription-based platform, that's probably the first thing that you look at.
Yep. Yeah, I see. And trying to like anchor your writing towards that, Do you just try and write the best story that you can and, hope that that leads to it? Or are there little hacks to try and that you can include in your writing to get people to click more or subscribe or do extra things?
Yeah, it's a good question because you always want to make sure like you're telling the best story that you can, and you don't want to skew that to, is this going to work for a subscription? Like you want to make sure you're telling the best story. But there's always things that you can do. We embed a lot of, other stories into something that may be related in that article, if that makes sense. But yeah, it does like play into your mind. Like, is this kind of what our readers are reading? Like, is this a popular topic? That's probably something you'd chase more, especially in like Australian news. Is it cricket? Is it the Australian teams? Is it like that's a more popular sport than something else? So, more of the resources may be dedicated there. So yeah, it definitely does play into it. But the journalist at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're telling the best story.
Yeah, amazing. In that chat that I mentioned I had with Alex, he was telling me about the need for journalists or people coming out of journalism degrees and communication degrees to be a digital all-rounder in 2024 and being able to know how to do all those different things that you mentioned, whether it's writing, editing, using a web platform. So it's really cool to hear that, you've honed those skills and are putting them to use at the moment. I want to go back a couple of steps to kind of uncover, like, how you got to this point. Can you walk us a bit through your journey in terms of what happened between leaving Deakin Uni and doing that comms journalism degree to ending up at Code Sports?
Yeah, a lot happened. I say this to people now, like, if you have an idea of what your career, like of what you want your career to look like just don't be too set on it because it's likely that it will be like a whole bunch of different things. But, I left uni at the end of 2018. I did a couple of internships. I did like I mentioned, the Fast Five series, and then I had an internship at Channel 7, which was amazing. And I thought, it was all starting to happen and fall into place. 2019, I actually got an opportunity with the Western Bulldogs, and I joined their team in like a game day media role. And so that was great. That was kind of like I was on the roll. And then get to the end of 2019 and, started 2020, COVID happens, all the cadetships disappear in journalism, the jobs that are all gone. What am I going to do? I'm still working my retail job, thank God, to have something going, and just doing as many like articles as I can in a freelance capacity and just kind of keeping that skill set going. But then I was lucky enough, I started applying for jobs in a different space, like in the media and comms space, rather than journalism. And I was lucky enough to get a job at Basketball Australia as a media and communications coordinator. So that was my first full-time gig. And this is during COVID. So, it's not like you're going into the office and saying hello to everybody. Like it was very much just kind of learn on your own terms at home. And so that was a different experience. That was one that I didn't expect, but also I didn't expect to be in basketball. That was not something that I'd kind of lent into. I was always an AFL girl or, cricket, and those are the sports that I'd more grown up with. Netball. Basketball was something different for me. So, that was a curveball thrown, but I absolutely loved it. Just, dove in headfirst and learned all about it. And now basketball is kind of my thing. So yeah, we did that. And then we found some opportunities came up with Formula One, took them, absolutely loved them in the digital media and comms and socials and, all those spaces kind of combined into one. And then, yeah, eventually ended up in this like PR space, and that opportunity presented itself. And I never thought I'd work in PR, but here we were working PR and sports major events, and got to do a whole lot of events in a short amount of time, but absolutely loved it. And then I bumped into you at the Grand Prix and we started chatting, and then we spoke about this opportunity, and there we go. Rest is history.
Amazing. Sounds like you've tried your hand at just about everything in the digital PR comms journalism space. But it's very cool to see where you've landed now. doing what you want to be doing, writing stories, which is awesome to see. What are some of the challenges that come with trying to get a job in the sports industry that you think people trying to enter should be aware of?
Yeah, it takes guts to get a job in sport, which I'm sure like everybody on this call probably knows, but it takes a lot of persistence as well because everybody wants a job in sport. Like it's an amazing field to work in. But yeah, there's a lot of competition. So you're going to get a lot of no's, and you're going to get a lot of no answers as well. But eventually you'll get someone who does say, hey, yeah, like let's grab a coffee. Or, for example, my first kind of proper opportunity with the Western Bulldogs, I emailed this guy like 4 times being like, do you have it? Like, what's going on? Do you need anyone for this? And like VFL, like what's happening? And like, I want to offer my time. I'll do it for nothing kind of thing. And then eventually he was like, oh, I actually do need someone. Do you want to start like this weekend? And I was like, great. So yeah, if people say no, just follow up. But yeah, probably persistence is a skill that you need to get a job in sport.
Your story at the Western Bulldogs is very similar to that of Kelly Ryan, the former CEO of Netball Australia.
Mm-hmm.
She messaged Western Bulldogs about 50 times and they just said no, 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 no. And then eventually like they offered her 2 jobs and that was how she got her foot in the door. And then she went on to, be a general manager at the Gold Coast Suns and Marvel and the AFL and go on to be CEO of Netball. So if anyone wants to check that out, that's episode 187. So you might be on your pathway to CEO of an NSO at this rate.
I mean, you never know. I've done a lot of jobs, but you never know where it may lead.
Yep. So you bounced around and did a bunch of different things. How did you make up your mind around decisions relating to career direction? For example,
Yeah.
like, when have jobs come up that you're like, oh, I just need to jump on this and try it out? Or when have jobs come up and you said, actually, no, that's really not where I want to go? How have you made decisions in relation to the direction of your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like a lot of the time it's just like you just got to try things out and figure out what you don't like, So when I was working in my role in basketball, there was, I was doing a lot of social media content and I figured out, social media management just wasn't for me. I was really keen on doing my writing and presenting, and that was the path that I really wanted to go down. But I had to learn that. So then that opportunities were coming up in that kind of social media space, and I was like, oh, they're great opportunities, but I think for my career, I don't really want to go down that path, so I'm going to say no to that one. And then just keep pestering people in the direction that I wanted to go to and hope something came up. But it's funny because, a lot of the time you don't know if you're making the right decision. You're just like, oh, this feels good at the time. Who knows if it's going to last? But even, in PR, when that opportunity came up, it was at a time where I was kind of looking for something and I was like, this is completely left of field. I never thought I would be in PR, but okay, let's give it a crack. And now I look back at it, look back on everything that I've done and I go, wow, I'm so glad I did all of that because it actually makes me better at my job now.
Yeah. That PR role, was that the Grand Prix role?
Yeah, so the PR, so the Grand Prix one was separate, but I've done a few Grand Prix now, and the most recent one was involved with my PR gig. So I did a couple of Grand Prix for the Australian Grand Prix Corporation, but the one this year was involved with PR. So I was actually there for a client, which was a lot of fun, a very different experience. But we got to do like the Melbourne Cup Carnival, then the Australian Open, then into Grand Prix. So it was a hectic 6 or 7 months there.
Yep. And what did you take away from that role that's kind of helped you in your role at Code now?
Contacts, a lot of contacts and networking. But also like the ability to know the media landscape from the PR side as well. It's a really different set of knowledge, I guess. Like that's something that I like never would have known coming into the space. And now PR people contact me as a journalist. And I'm like, yeah, I know what I know what you're going through, you know, I know your expectations or your limitations or, your deadlines as well. So it's a really good balance.
Hugh Jackman has said a very similar thing because he came out of a journalism degree in Sydney, and now these days, obviously, massive celebrity. So he has journalists like pestering him all the time. But he's probably one of the few empathetic celebrities out there who actually understands the world of the journalist, who knows that, if that person doesn't come home with a story about whether, how's his marriage going and, is he going to have a new baby, then, they're under the pump and probably going to get fired, which allows him to kind of deal with them in a better way. So interesting to hear that there are parallels between Hugh Jackman's role and your role with Coach Sports.
I will take that. I'll take that. But it's good to know both sides. It's definitely it's very interesting.
Yeah. Now, I believe you presented your work experience in a very compelling way through the use of Canva and portfolio. Do you want to explain, like, when you apply for a job, like, what does the presentation of Jess Robinson look like?
Yeah. So you mean my resume? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So my first job when I got it, so the full-time gig, my boss at the time, she was hiring me and she was like, "Oh, I just saw your resume and I just couldn't forget it." Like that. And I was like, "Great. So I'll do that for all the rest of my jobs now." But just something that shows creativity. My resume was like a Canva design. It was, had a bit of color going on. It wasn't just kind of like a black and white Word doc. It had like sections and was broken down nicely. I don't know, but it looked good at the time. And well, apparently good enough to get a job. So I was happy with it. But yeah, I think it just made me stand out. I had a link to like my show reel and like a portfolio of work as well as all the other bits and pieces. But I think just being like showing that you can like design something, if that's the role that you kind of want to get into, creative space, you can make it look clean and you have an eye for like size and layout and all of those things. It's probably helpful.
Yeah, I've heard like some people who work in people and culture say that the first thing they look for on a resume is, your experience. And the second thing is the formatting, because in their eyes, they're thinking, if you can't format your own resume correctly, how can I trust you to bring in a level of attention to detail in the work that our company needs you to do? And particularly in your role as a digital producer and needing to be, as Alex Brown says, a digital all-rounder now, like, showing you can do that in your own resume is a great way to say, yeah, guys, I can do the full suite of things.
Exactly. And I think people will be surprised to know like how many people don't go to those extra efforts as well. So like if you can, you'll stand out.
Your show reel and your portfolio, were they just like, was that like a web page you created for yourself? What did that look like?
Yeah, so the portfolio especially was something that we did in our final year of uni at Deakin, which was great. Our final year was kind of set up as like a newsroom, which was awesome. And our tutor would kind of act like the lead editor and would pitch stories and all that. Anyway, and yeah, in our final year, they got us to create a portfolio. It was just like a Wix website. And then I just kept it up to date. I just kept updating it with just more and more work that I was doing. So now I'd still used it to get this job, which was really good. And then in terms of the show reel, it was something that I just pulled together a lot of the work that I did from uni. And then, as time goes on, I'll update it with work that I do across my career. But yeah, and I just edited something together, and I've actually changed it a couple of times now. I've kind of made like one show reel that's a bit more like social media friendly as well. So it's a little bit more in like the content creation space. And I think that just shows that you can create something. So yeah.
And what did you use to edit that show reel?
Yeah, it was a while ago now, but one of the, just to be honest, I feel like I just did it on one of those video editing apps that you can download on your phone and like CapCut or something. Probably should have been more of like a Adobe or any of those. But I'm pretty sure I just did like a cut video. And you can record voiceovers.
Well, the reason I ask is because it's really cool kind of hearing you share how in like one application you've demonstrated that, you can use Canva, you can design, you can edit video, you can write. When, you thought you were just submitting a resume when really it's just like, well, here's everything I've got to offer in one.
Yeah. And I think you just got to think about the HR people, like how many resumes they're going through. And if you don't kind of present everything, like if they have to call you and ask like, hey, can you send through a portfolio? Like a lot of the times they're going to be like, I'll just go for the person who already sent me the portfolio. So just try and make things as easy as possible for them.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Because in their mind, if they want to make a hire quickly, they've got to wait for you to respond. That could like take a couple of days. By that point, they needed someone last week, so opportunity missed. That's a great little tidbit. Awesome. We're going to throw it open to the floor for questions in just a sec. But Jess, I was wondering if you could go back and give yourself one bit of advice, say when you're coming out of uni and about to go on your whirlwind of a journey in sport, what advice would you give to yourself?
I reckon I would say just be a yes person. Like just something left of field comes up. Yeah, sure, I'll do it. This could lead to something awesome, or it could lead to a contact that you may need later down the road, or a relationship with someone that may come up later as well. So like, I think just being a yes person, because that's gotten me some amazing experiences and career highlights for sure.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the sound of this job and Jess's role. If you want to hear the full recording, make sure you become a SportsGrad Learn member to get access. It's only $29 to get started, and you get full access to the SportsGrad library, which has got over 70 hours of premium content about jobs in sport. It's kind of like Netflix for jobs in sport. If you want to know absolutely everything that's going on in the sports industry so you can find your place, well, you can get access to all that information for just $29. To get a hold of that, head to sportsgrad.com.au. And until then, we'll see you next time. Hey, last thing before you go. Everyone knows the sports industry is super competitive, so you might want to keep this to yourself. But every Monday, I send out an email called Shortcuts by SportsGrad. It takes 5 minutes to read, and it gives you everything you need to get an edge over other job hunters on a silver platter. Here you'll find exclusive job opportunities, networking events, and premium resources to get ahead. Again, it takes less than 5 minutes to read, and it's designed to help you get ahead and stay ahead. So if you want to receive the next one in your inbox, head to sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter. But as I mentioned, competition for jobs in sport is red hot, so perhaps keep this to yourself.